So the RTX 4070 Super has been out for a week now. And since then, I've been testing and comparing this GPU with other GPUs I have laying around. And after looking through the results, I kinda get why you guys hate this card so much. I mean, just look at the comment section of my 4070 Super benchmark video. You guys really went hard on Nvidia. So in this video, I'm going to share the results of the benchmarks and share some personal insights towards this card. But before we get into it, I need to thank the guys who helped keep the lights on.
Elevate your typing experience with FirstGR. FirstGR offers a wide array of accessories to personalize your keyboard, from keycaps, switches, and even desk mats. But what really got me intrigued are their keycap designs. We recently got a hold of their Spring Tee PBT keycaps and this Sunset Gradient PBT keycaps, and they definitely look and feel amazing to type on. The Spring Tee gives a fresh, clean vibe, while the Sunset Gradient keycaps for some reason gives me the GTA 6 vibes. Choose from over 100 designs on their website. Their keycaps are also compatible with all major mechanical keyboard brands, and the materials they use are top-notch. And to celebrate our partnership, here's a special offer for our viewers. Use our promo code JEGS20% to slash 20% off of your purchase. Check their website down in the description.
Starting off, I got this Gigabyte RTX 4070 Super Windforce locally for about $730 or 39,995 Philippine pesos. Which is overpriced, I know, but nowadays which isn't? Particularly here in the Philippines, I never once saw a GPU released which followed the MSRP price. If you want to see the unboxing of this GPU, I made a YouTube shorts on it, the link to which should be above here somewhere. Anyways, this is a dual slot GPU with a tri-fan cooling design. It is smaller compared to the gaming OC version, so this might be an option for you guys who prefer smaller cards to fit into their case. This GPU is powered by a 16-pin 12-volt high-power cable, which Gigabyte includes an adapter in case your power supply doesn't support it natively. For the output, it has one HDMI 2.1 and 3 DisplayPort 1.4a.
For the technical specs, the Windforce RTX 4070 Super has a base clock of 1980 MHz, which is the same as the reference 4070 Super. Its boost clocks are 1% higher compared to the reference model at 2505 MHz, and the rest of the specs are virtually identical.
Before we get to the test benchmarks, here's the test bench and settings we used.
I'm also going to test the 4070 Super on some mid-range setups like the i5-12400F and Ryzen 5 7500F in the coming days, so just watch out for the benchmark videos on those pairings. In Cyberpunk 2077, when playing on native raster, the 4070 Super was decent, but it trailed behind the RX 7800 XT, a $500 GPU, which is embarrassing, but of course the selling point of the RTX 4000 series is ray tracing and DLSS along with its other features. With ray tracing enabled, the RX 7800 XT trailed behind the 4070 Super. When comparing it with its little brother, the RTX 4070, the 4070 Super saw an uplift of around 12 to 13%. Moving on to F123, the same trend can be seen. The RX 7800 XT beats the RTX 4070 Super on rasterization by about 3 to 10%, with the gap widening at higher resolutions due to the slow memory bus the RTX 4070 Super has. With ray tracing enabled, even the RTX 4070 managed to catch up against the RX 7800 XT. The 4070 Super saw a 12% uplift of performance against the 4070 and a 25% difference against the RX 7800 XT. Again, this is when ray tracing is enabled. On Hogwarts Legacy, both the RTX 4070 and the RTX 4070 Super had problems when playing on 4K with ray tracing set to Ultra, as both cards crashed during our test. Even at 1440p, we had to run the test several times more than usual as we experienced crashes, especially when reaching the center of Hogsmeade. You keen observers might be wondering why the RTX 3080 with 10 gigs of VRAM was able to run 4K with ray tracing. In this case, it's not about the VRAM amount, but more on the memory bus. On 4K, the 192-bit memory interface of the 4070 and 4070 Super simply is not enough, while the RTX 3080 has a massive 320-bit memory interface. But of course, Hogwarts Legacy's optimization is also to be blamed for this. On Resident Evil 4 Remake, I have to apologize for this, but I think this was not the best scene to test with ray tracing enabled, as there were few water reflections or light sources for ray tracing to be utilized. We came to this conclusion as we noticed very little scaling between the raster performance and ray tracing performance. So we're going to retest this, but nonetheless, here's the results of our test. The 4070 Super once again outperforms its red rival on ray tracing performance, but on the raster test, the RX 7800 XT closes the gap with the RTX 4070 Super and actually outperforms it on 1440p and 4K resolution. Again, the 4070 Super suffers from slow memory interface, causing lower performance on higher resolution. Star Wars Jedi Survivor pretty much sees the same trend, with the RTX 4070 Super leading both RX 7800 XT and RTX 4070 on ray tracing performance. But surprisingly, the RTX 4070 Super also outperformed the RX 7800 XT on rasterization.
By the way, we already published our benchmark video comparing the RTX 4070 Super and the RX 7800 XT. It has no commentary, just pure test footage, and if you're interested to see that, the links to the video should be above here somewhere.
On Witcher 3 DirectX 12, the RTX 4070 Super edged out the RX 7800 XT on both ray tracing and raster performance, with a difference of 14 to 17% on ray tracing performance and marginal differences on raster performance. Here's the remaining results of our raster test. We tested a total of 17 games including the 6 games mentioned earlier, each running the highest settings with no upscaling or frame generation. The RTX 4070 Super and the RX 7800 XT were trading blows in terms of better FPS. The RTX 4070 Super was ahead of the RX 7800 XT on 9 out of the 17 games tested. So here's where the RTX 4000 series in general truly shines: their power efficiency. The RTX 4070 Super was consuming 213 watts during gaming, while its red counterpart was averaging 267 watts. With proper undervolting, the RTX 4070 Super can average a sub 200 watt consumption during gaming. When on idle, the 4070 Super averages 11 watts, which is almost a third of what the RTX 3080 consumes when idle. Nvidia recommends at least a 650 watt power supply for the 4070 Super, but realistically, it is possible to run this card on a decent 550 watt power supply. For the temperatures, the Gigabyte RTX 4070 Super Windforce averages 41.1 Celsius when idle and 63.8 Celsius when gaming. Our room temperature was around 20 to 22 Celsius during testing, and the GPUs were tested on an open case. As for the fan noise, the Gigabyte RTX 4070 Super was silent at 44.4 decibels. For reference, a typical whisper is registered at 30 decibels, while a normal conversation is around 60 decibels. The noise includes the case fans, so if this was tested on a fanless test bench, the decibels should be a little bit lower. As to price to performance, among the 5 GPUs tested here, the RX 7800 XT had the best value, followed by the RX 6800 XT and then the RTX 4070 Super. All prices were taken from Amazon and they were the cheapest prices available on stock. The RTX 4070 Super was hands down the best value in terms of FPS per watt, followed by its little brother the RTX 4070, then the RX 7800 XT.
So am I going to recommend buying the RTX 4070 Super? It's a pretty tricky question to ask, because the perceived value of the RTX 4070 Super will depend on the user. For example, if the user never plays with ray tracing enabled, prefers playing on native raster, and prefers playing without the frame generation, then buying the RTX 4070 Super is pointless aside from the power efficiency it brings. If the user prefers playing on native raster, then the RX 7800 XT would be a greater value GPU to get, as it has similar FPS performance on native raster, has 16 gigs of VRAM, and is $100 cheaper. Now don't get me wrong, the 12 gigs of VRAM the RTX 4070 Super has is more than enough in most cases. but I can see it certainly being a problem down the line, especially in the upcoming AAA game titles to be released. But to their credit, Nvidia made one thing right when they released a card performing better than the RTX 4070 at the same price. And speaking of price tag, I feel like Nvidia could have made more sales out of the 4070 Super if they priced it at around $500 US. But then again, they have to slash down the prices of other 4000 series graphics cards, so it's really impossible to ask at the moment. But a wise man once said there is no such thing as a bad GPU, only a badly priced one. So for now, it's a no for me for the RTX 4070 Super. It's way too overpriced for the specs and performance it brings. But it is a small step towards the right direction for Nvidia. So that's it for our review on the RTX 4070 Super. We know we're kinda late to this party, but we wanted to make sure that we retested everything so we have fresh data to work with. The RTX 4070 Ti Super and the RX 7600 XT will be released later this month, and we're also excited to test those, so subscribe if you want to see that. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it for me. See you guys on the next video.